Well, coming up on today's show, a trip to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where EVs took over. The Polestar 1, Robo Race, VW IDR Pikes Peak Racer, the second-gen Formula E car, and many more. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Hello and welcome to the Saturday, the 14th of July edition of EV News Daily. It's Martyn Lee here with the news you need to know about electric cars and the move towards sustainable transport. And welcome to a Saturday special. We love to do this. For instance, next Saturday, it's a very special interview that I recorded earlier this week with a solar and storage company. And we sat down with their chief technology officer, their CTO. They're a company called Moixa, and that's going to be next Saturday's interview special. But today, it's all about the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Happens in the south of England. It's near somewhere called Chichester. It's in its 25th year this year. It's basically a hill climb with every possible car of every type, of every race series, of every format, of every era, and also it's on the Duke of Richmond's seat. So he's a huge car nut, and he organises this event every single year, as well as something called the Revival, the Goodwood Revival, which is more classic cars. But there's plenty of classic cars here at the Festival of Speed as well. Many things that I knew would be on my tick list, my checklist of things that I wanted to get through today, and I was there as a guest of one of the companies involved in it. Not a motoring company though, by the way, so don't worry, it's not as if I'm saying nice things in one of these segments and you're thinking, hang on, was he drinking their free beer today? So it was an honour. Thank you very much for the invite to come down to Goodwood today. Yesterday, I'm recording this last thing on Friday night, if you're listening to this on Saturday. But there was a list of things I wanted to get through. And at the top of the list, it had to be the first Tesla Model 3 on European shores. Now, there's been, I think it was one at Geneva a little while ago. That wasn't Tesla that brought that along, though. There's been YouTubers, of course, quite famously as well. It didn't end very well. And these kind of auto shows, people will always bring Model S and X along as well. So, independent traders. I think there was a company there that I walked past today. They had a stall. They do like ceramic wraps for paintwork, and they've done it on a Model S. So, but this was the big Tesla stand, and boy, was it big. All the major automakers were there today in force, and Tesla not only held their own, I would say, but had a really imposing presence and the real key part of the site as well. And that tells you a story, doesn't it, in terms of what they are investing. It was a huge structure, big upstairs area, cars in the upstairs as well, which is amazing. These kind of temporary structures that are built. It was enormous and enormously impressive as well. So as well as being on the stand of the Model S and 3 Model S's, including my personal favourite. I was so delighted to see my personal favourite configuration, which is white on white. So it was the white Model S with the white paint and the white interior with the black carbon fibre and the black Alcantara headliner. It's just the ultimate. If I could order a brand new Tesla and have that kind of custom made experience, well, that would be what I put into the configurator. Oh, and the turbine wheels, of course, as you would. So that was there, which is amazing to see that, because it's like, oh, that's my ultimate. However, the ultimate had to be today to see what the Model 3 looked like in the flesh, in the metal, for the very first time. So maybe you're listening to this somewhere in the world that has these flying around the roads in the neighbourhoods already, and this sounds kind of silly, but cast your mind back 2.5 years ago when this was all new to you, and then we finally get ours. It's a bit of a going back down memory lane for you. My first 5 impressions then, that I thought I would, I've got a little notebook with me today, and I got onto the stand, had a wander around the outside, lifted all the boot, the trunk, and the bonnet, the frunk, and had a good look round. Had a good look around the inside as well. Did some video if you want to have a look at that on our Twitter channel, and then just kind of soaked it all up. Went away for 5 minutes and okay, what's this overriding impression then of this car that is so talked about the first time you get to see it? I think the first thing is the size. The size is just ideal for British roads because we don't, when I've been to the US before and we hire a car and everything's just bigger, right? The parking spaces are bigger, your cars are bigger, and the Model 3, just the perfect size, I think, for European cities, European driving, inside and outside. Talking of the inside, like a TARDIS. I got in the back to begin with, and it was something that I've seen people make YouTube videos about. They talk about it on podcasts. I've seen people blog about it. But the headroom in the back, and just generally, you feel like you sit low enough down, and it's not a super tall, it's not a crossover, obviously it's sedan, but there's loads of headroom. You're kind of working out how have you made the space with this. The other thing as well is storage, like storage everywhere. I was lifting up little cubby holes in the boot and the front, and so much stuff to things you can put places. Also, the big thing when you get in with the Model 3 that I've watched like a bazillion videos now, and the thing that I've never appreciated till I sat in one today was the actual experience of having one big tablet console in the middle of the car and then nothing in front of you, that conventional dash that you are used to. And as I kind of walked away from it, I thought, every other car that I'm ever going to get in now, till I buy my Model 3, is going to seem old-fashioned. Now, I know that there's some people that have written about this, and some people have kind of got an issue in magazines that have been like, well, we didn't settle down with the screen to begin with, we were looking straight ahead for the speed. Everyone's different. For me, it felt very intuitive. My eyes were glancing down to it within a couple of seconds, and it was like, okay, this is there, that's great. At no point did I feel not having something in front of me was a hindrance in any way. I wouldn't miss it at all, apart from just that glorious single air vent for the aircon, which is just brilliant to control. Finally, that glass roof. And I've been in a few, actually SUVs really, that have got the big panoramic roofs, but to have one on a car that size as well, the sense of space it gives you, is just awesome. So those are my first impressions of actually being with a Model 3 in Europe, because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for so long, and having a little play with it today. Just gorgeous. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a wait if you are listening to us in Europe to get one of these. They say mid-2019 before they even start producing right-hand drive versions, even though that process will be far easier than with a combustion engine car, because the whole car is designed to be symmetrical. So, you know, just take the drawing that Franz did and turn it upside down, and then the wheels on the proper side now. You get my drift. It's going to be an easier process. However, with the news that we had this week of the 200,000th delivery of a Tesla Model S, X or 3 being the trigger now for the tax rebate, the way it works in the US, so you get up to $7,500 tax rebate. So if you do pay enough tax, you get that rebate based on buying an EV. And then when any car manufacturer, so GM are close behind, but you get 200,000 sales and then it triggers it. And every 6 months it halves. So from the 1st of January, it'll halve, and then in H2 next year it'll half again. So Tesla, in their interests of their US buyers, are going to make as many cars as possible and deliver as many as possible to get as many buyers the best possible price they can, which, when you think about it, if someone's saving $7,500 on their tax, they might think, well, you know, I'll go for the performance model, the offset on that extra $9,000. That's fine, I can take that. So I don't expect those right-hand drive models to be done in any special volume until at least middle of next year, maybe even later. And I wouldn't be surprised, and it would just be a sensible thing for them to do. So incredible experience today. And like I say, that probably sounds so silly if you've got one or you've seen them flying around where you live, but boy, we've been waiting a very long time for them. Also been waiting a long time as well to see the Volvo, or the Polestar 1. Now, Polestar being Volvo's AMG, if you like, their sports sub-brand, being relaunched and reinvigorated with the Polestar 1. It's a hybrid, so it's got a 2-litre turbocharged engine, also with a big battery pack and a big set of electric motors. It'll do something like 70 or 75 odd miles on the new WLTP test cycle on EV power alone, but it is a performance car, and it ran up the track today. So I had a look not only on the Polestar stand, and you can see those videos online as well. It is beautiful from every angle. It is beautiful, and it's massively expensive. It's $150,000. You can buy one, or they're trying out this new way of taking on a car as a subscription model over 2 or 3 years. On the stand, the production version, utterly stunning. Went and checked out the prototype Model 4, I think prototype 4, which has been testing all over the world, and it's the one they were running up the hill climb in anger. And it's noisy. It's when it goes past you and the engine's it's singing in full. It just sounds like a normal combustion car. But boy, really quick. And I was standing pretty close to the track, and wow, it's a real sense of speed on that. It's going to be a fantastic car for the people that can get their hands on one. I don't know if it's sold out. I've read somewhere that they have sold out all the ones that they can possibly make for now. Such was the level of interest, but I couldn't get that confirmed either way, or denied by Polestar. Moving on to Robo Race as well. This is fascinating. Will this ever catch on? Is part of motorsport and racing and Formula E. It's about machine and man or woman driving. Is it really? It's like drone racing. I've not really kind of caught on with that. However, is Robo Race gonna be a thing? Electric cars under their own AI with radar and all those kind of things, GPS, racing up a hill with it all kind of pre-programmed, doing the best possible speed they can. I'm not sure it'll catch on. It lacks a little bit of soul for me, but it's new. And like all these things, like Formula E didn't click with me initially, and now I'm a huge fan. So we'll wait and see. But those Robo Race cars, it's stunning styling, but kind of weird to watch. Well, the VW IDR Pikes Peak Racer, fresh from setting new records at Pikes Peak, was smashing the record as well. Then they stuck it on a plane and brought it to the UK and went up the hill climb at Goodwood, also in record speed. And you know when you watch cars going quickly, you can tell when the race driver is right on the edge. Every apex is hit and every inch of the track is used. They were really going for that today with the all-electric VW IDR Pikes Peak Racer. It flew past me today, and then afterwards went to try and find it in the paddock. Could I find it? No, I couldn't, which is the biggest disappointment from today. That was there. The Formula E Generation 2 car was there as well. And again, when you see these things, you see them on videos and YouTube, and Nico Rosberg has done a whole bunch of laps in this. It's the next-gen car for Formula E, which is coming later this year for the next season. For 2018-19, it's going to double the battery, double the power, no more driver swaps. They've dubbed it the Batman car. When you see these things close up, and by the way, this was literally just outside the FIA, so it's the governing body of motorsport. It was just outside their stand, and the security guard was chilled. He was like wandering around. Everyone was being respectful. No one was putting their hand in and touching the steering wheel and stuff. It wasn't roped off. And I got super close. Did a little video for you on our YouTube channel, on Twitter as well, if you want to go and see that. It's a couple of minutes long. It looks angry even when it's standing still. It's a beautiful piece of car design, which the pictures and the videos, again, just didn't seem to communicate. When you see one up close, the design is really extreme and just fantastic to look at. Can't wait to see them on Formula E racetracks later this year with all new technology under the skin. And this is one, I think, which had been used because when I popped my head into the cockpit, the steering wheel looked used, a bit battered, and inside as well, all the carbon fibre. I think they'd had, you can see where the seat belts have been in there, and I think that this one's been driven and tested, and you can check out the video online as well. The Neo was there, the Neo EP9. This is a moderately bonkers car. Fastest EV to lap the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the lap record back in, was that May last year, doing it in 6 minutes 45, and a lot of car makers don't like to, they might test it there, but they don't like to then release the number in case it's, the McLarens are faster than the Ferrari, or the Ferrari's faster than the McLaren kind of thing. However, they did, and it was quick around that German lap. The sills on this has got gull wing doors. The sills, the Neo EP9 is so wide, it's, the gull wing doors go up. The sills that you have to climb across to even get in must be the width of a normal car seat. So picture yourself in a car, and a typical kind of car seat that you sit in. That must be the width just of the door sill that you've got to climb over to get in. Inside it looks bonkers, outside it looks bonkers. I put a bunch of pictures on our channel as well, and you can see that it is just an incredible car that is probably going to be made, I don't know, a handful of them to incredibly rich people. It was the way that Rimac started after all, with just 10 of their first one. it's a big car as well. It's an imposing car, the Neo EP9. In every way, it's long, it's wide. I don't know what rims it was running on. I don't know, like 30 inches or something. No, I mean, seriously though, it was like, they were like more than 21s. Big wheels. So everything was supersized on that car. Well, going to the other extreme, the Mini was there as well. The Mini concept, though, and this is an example that I'll raise actually of different people being briefed slightly differently. Let me come back to Tesla. So when I walked up to the Tesla stand today, I didn't ask for the media person. I didn't ask for, who's doing your, because I hadn't emailed them in advance to say that I was coming down with the podcast, because, you know, with a wildly unpopular podcast, why would they give me 5 minutes? But and they did, by the way, actually, were incredible. But I talked to 2 or 3 of the team that were there. They are at Goodwood over the weekend. They first saw the Model 3 themselves on Wednesday. I was talking to them about the configurator recently going live, so that everybody could have a go, and they were talking to me about the nuance, once they realised I was into it, the nuances of that, and even the things like all the real down to the fine details. Everybody that I spoke to on the Tesla stand, they knew that car inside out. Not that I was trying to trip them up, but once they got the sense that I was super into it, they were like, oh yeah, and you can do this and this and this. And they knew that utterly inside out. On the other extreme, on the BMW, the Mini stand, well, they were still knowledgeable about the Mini products, but they really didn't want to talk about the Mini concept electric car. Now, we know that the Mini EV is going to be coming sooner rather than later, sometime in 2019. Prototypes are on the road, as the spy shots have shown, and they really didn't want to talk about it. So when I mentioned about the Mini, they said, yeah, because they had the concept there, and I put some pictures online, it is just a concept, they said, and in terms of production, well, the very end of 2019 possibly. And I thought they kind of missed the opportunity to tell, and I didn't explain that I make a podcast and all those kind of, I was just kind of chatting, any other person that went to Goodwood. And I think they missed an opportunity to sell a really good story, which is, hey, we did this thing 10 years ago, and, you know, we make a plug-in now, but we did that trial 10 years ago with the first electric Mini. What we learned from that, we put into this concept, and then it got signed off, and now we're making it. Do you want to buy one? They're going to be out next year. Are you excited about it? And it was kind of like, well, yeah, but this is the concept, and it'll be it. And they didn't want to get excited about the electric Mini. Could have just been an individual, and it'll be interesting to see. They weren't anti-selling it. They just weren't really interested in talking about it, or just playing it down that it was just a concept. And finally, Shell Recharge was there. I want to talk about this because it's not so much about a car, but also about the infrastructure around it. And of course, Shell Recharge is something that they'll be doing to move into the next bit of energy consumption as we all stop using fossil fuel. Shell Recharge, of course, is their EV charging service. They're using their existing filling stations that you can stop and top up your EV. On the stand, we're talking about where you can find your nearest one. Is your EV compatible with the chargers that they've got on it? How long it'll take to charge? What it costs, which at the moment is 49 pence per kilowatt hour, and whether you can just turn up, rock up and use it, and all those kind of things. They had a BMW i3S on their stand. That's a nice car, by the way, the new i3S, and the little blue accents on the BMW i3. Man, that's lovely. And I didn't get the sense that it had I know that the S has got the kind of thick of the tyres and it's a bit lower. I didn't get a sense of that, but it does look utterly beautiful. So I thought it was interesting that Shell were there as well with a big stand pushing Shell Recharge. It seemed like this was the year when everybody was talking about electric cars at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and people coming along and going, all right, so how far does that Model 3 go, and where do I charge it, and well, that's pretty good. And just asking those questions that people will ask when they don't know much about EV. So I hope you've enjoyed my little tale of the day at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where it felt like EVs really were at a turning point today with the general public. We'll be back to the news tomorrow on the podcast. You can listen to all previous 179 episodes in the meantime on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and the blog at evnewsdaily.com. If you subscribe, you get them first and free and automatically. Have a wonderful Saturday, and I'll catch you tomorrow.